Come here now, girl.
Hello and welcome to Map Making with me, BonBonB. I'm BonBonB. You're very, very welcome, and welcome back to Duvo, the provisional name for my second ever map build. Now today's episode is all about river reeds, and it took me a little bit longer to put these down in normal episodes, so that's the cluster on the left we'll be using, and we'll be doing a cluster of the clusters to get started, but I'll talk about that in a moment. So yes, today's show was, normally I do about a half-hour build at a time. This was about 40 minutes, or just a shade under 40 minutes of total build, which I have time-lapsed to bring down to a 15 minutes, because literally all I'm going to be doing today is putting down river reeds. Lots and lots of river reeds. I started off with a cluster of the clusters, but I felt that I wasn't getting the accuracy of placement that I would have liked. By the time you've rotated using Move It, the cluster of clusters, it would have been quicker to have clicked 4 times and placed the river reeds in, well, the exact locations that you would like them to be. So I went with that instead. Now let's get rid of the elephant in the room, because I know there's a lot of you going, oh my god, that's a lot of river reeds you're putting down there, BonBon. That's going to really lag on the frame rate. Yes, you're right. You are absolutely spot on correct. Have a banana. Yes, there will be some frame rate lag, but don't worry about that, because this map was built in mind for detailers, those that want to actually do a pretty build, a detailed build, and would like a pretty detailed backdrop to build around. So that is the primary task for this map. But as a secondary task, much like I did with Merrickstowe, which was a fairly vanilla map, there wasn't too much in there that was non-vanilla. There were grasses. They were Gula's long grasses, and I used them mostly for detailing the abandoned railway line. And I was aware that that might cause some lag for some people, certainly with a less powerful computer. So I put into the description there were some items that you really didn't need to subscribe to, and the map would be absolutely fine. So when I launch this map on the workshop, there will be a couple of different one-click collections. There'll be one for all the bells and whistles, which I highly encourage if you've got the computer that can run a moderately detailed map, and to be fair, it is only moderately detailed. There will be a one-click collection for everything that you're seeing being done here today and every other single day that I've been working on this map. However, if you would like to have a more vanilla experience, or it wouldn't be vanilla because there are some items which you absolutely will need for this that are non-vanilla, but if you're looking for one that is going to be less taxing on your system, there will be a second one-click collection of just what I would consider the essential items, and most of those you would already have seen, which were the low-tri trees for most of the basic forests. I would leave out things like the stone pine set, which is slightly more taxing in terms of tries. They're not. It's not the most taxing of assets, but it is certainly a lot more so than the Pidalmo tree set that I started doing the forests with. Now let's move on and talk a little bit more about these wetlands, because there are quite a few of them right in the middle of the map on the island. Now these were always intended to look a little bit like floodplain, although we will be using this map again also, for those of you that haven't followed the series closely, it is going to be intended to be used with the TPB Tides mod. Again, you don't need to use the TPB Tides mod. The vanilla settings, or the base settings, will be fine, absolutely fine, but being able to watch the tide come in and go out will be just something. I think this is the first map that will properly allow for a proper tide setting, and one that will make an actual proper visual difference to the overall map aesthetics. There was a tides map that we reviewed, and if I'm honest with you, it looked half done. It looked like it was a good idea that didn't work, but they launched it anyway. And yeah, we did have a look at that. It wasn't great, if I'm honest with you. So yes, I'm hoping to do a better job of that. But if it doesn't work, because at the end of the day, I know what I've got in mind. I think I know how it's all going to work. But you know, best laid plans. You have this really good idea, and you know how it's going to work. And then when you sit down to do it, much like my Halloween special this year, it just doesn't work. And my Halloween special, I knew exactly what I was going to do for that, and it just didn't come together. So I've spent the time going back to Duvo and doing more work on Duvo instead. Makes a lot of sense, really. So yes, there's a lot of we're talking about wetlands and the amount of space. They're taking a lot of space, or a good chunk of space, away from the build plane. I understand that, but once again, once I started building the map, I always intended for about 4 tiles of build plane on the main island, and then on the secondary island, the Crescent Moon Island, I wanted there to be about another 3 tiles. That's outside of the 25 tiles, but for those people that are playing the modded game, they would have easy access to that. And there's a few features on there, such as the ability to have docks. That'll be on that island as well. And then there's some mainland, and there's some build plane on the mainland as well. So what have we got on this particular, on the main island? There's possibly about 5. No, it's got some trees that are swimming there, moving them. Yeah, on the main island, there's about 5 tiles of build space in total. Three main tiles, and then there's 2 tiles which, if you push them together, is another tile. And then you've also got the hills. And not the mountain, obviously, with the castle on it, but the hills are accessible, and if you include those, that's about an extra tile as well. So in the actual, on the main island itself, even ignoring all the wetlands that's been lost to build plane, is about 5 tiles. Then if you add the 3 tiles on the secondary island, although outside of the 25 tiles, it's not actually off in the fog, it's just touching the fog, really. The extremities just edging into the fog. Yeah, if you include those, that's 8 tiles. And then if you go to the mainland, which will be, a lot of it will be in dense fog, because we are talking about going to the edge of the map here. If you then switch the fog off with the cloud and fog toggler from Bloody Penguin, there's a good 4 or 5 extra tiles. Actually, no, 4 tiles along the right hand side, and about another 4 tiles. So it's probably about another 8 tiles worth of build space, although that is really only intended to be used as an access area. So I have left some room for like docks and for a train depot there as well, right in the corner, which obviously we've been building the last week or two. But it is mostly intended to be the entrance to the islands rather than actually a buildable area. But it is technically buildable, and it's going to be flat enough to build on. So yeah, if you take those, what did I say? That's about 8. So it's probably about 15 to 16 tiles of buildable plane on the entire map, which isn't that small, really. Although, like I say, the centre of the main island does seem to be somewhat lost to wetlands. Once again, though, once you, I've not included the wetlands into that buildable space, so you could add there's a lot of raised areas within these wetlands that you could actually build into. Maybe turn it into parkland, of course. Maybe turn it into National Trust, or possibly just do some villages or small towns actually in the wetlands. You know that these things happen, don't they? I absolutely approve of you if you were to do such a thing on this map. Now, these are obviously river reeds. The river reeds, we are going to completely do the wetlands in today's show, including the side lakes that are part of the wetlands as well. This is the river system. And so we'll be doing all of that today. The ornamental lake that is at the foot of the hills, I call it ornamental lake because it isn't a natural lake shape. It's more of an oval with an indent into it, if that makes any kind of sense. I see that as being a man-made lake at some point in prehistory. That won't actually have any river reeds in it because I see it as an ornamental lake. There is a tiny little pond at the foot of the mountain. I'm going to call it the mountain. There's a tiny little lake there that will have possibly a little bit of river reeds in it. Possibly. I haven't decided yet. Maybe not, actually. The more I think about it, no. Forget that. Won't be doing that. We will be doing some river reeds, though, on the lake on the island with the island in the lake. You know, the Crescent Moon Islands, that lake there will be some river reeds going on there. Not a huge amount of river reed detailing on that one, just a little bit of spot detailing. Now, you may notice here, I'm not bringing the river reeds right the way down to the actual coastline. I'm trying to do a transition between also, you'll notice a lot fewer river reeds here in the lake areas. Again, I've got a vision for how I imagine these would be. And I believe that river reeds need the flowing water to thrive, and also this fire engine gone past my window right there. Sorry about that if you could hear it. So yeah, we got river reeds, less in these lake areas, more in the river areas, and quite a lot in the shallow areas as well. So anyway, that's kind of how that works. The sandy areas, as the rivers reach the actual shore, faded out the river reeds. Sorry about that, my voice nearly broke there. I faded out the river reeds at those locations. Done a little bit of fade. I don't see them as being sand-based plants, so they're being tapered out there. Now, there are a couple of other plants that I have, actually 3 other plants I've looked at as being used for detailing in these wetlands. So I won't be using them in such vast quantities as I've been doing with the river reeds. So at some point in the next episode or 2, we'll be coming back to the wetlands and placing a few more variant plants, not various plants, a few variant plants, just to tweak things a little bit and add a little bit of diversity to the foliage, because diversity is a good thing. The more diversity and the more realistic it can look. And these will be used for spot detailing, so like picking an area, going, yes, that needs a little bit of detail there, that needs a little bit of detail there, and should hopefully make the whole thing pop. We'll have a little bit of colour. One of them is the bush shrub, mixed bush shrub, I think it's called. One that I've already used on the Essential Lighthouse Island, so it's already been used on the map. And yes, we'll be using that. It's got a little bit of colour in it. There's the white lily as well, which is a water-based asset, and I believe it floats on the water. That'll look very nice in pinches. Not going to do a lot of them, just a pinch here and a pinch there of the white lilies. And then there's bushy grasses, I think, as well. I won't be using those so much along the rivers, but certainly on the more lakey type areas, looking at possibly using the bushy grasses as well. Once again, all of these, if you don't subscribe to them on the workshop in the one-click collection that I'll put up, they won't appear on your map, they won't clog up your system, and your map will run absolutely fine. It'll just be lacking a little bit of all this extra detailing that I'm throwing in, and there's a lot of it. Right, okay, we're getting towards the end of today's show, which frankly I'm quite thankful for. It's a little bit asthmatic today, and I have kind of struggled to get through today's show with the constant talking and more talking and a little bit more talking. But hopefully I've been suitably entertaining for you, and I've managed to stay clear of politics, unlike yesterday where I just went off on one. I was a little bit stressed. I haven't watched any news in the last 48 hours because it's just getting me down at the moment. and it's better not to watch it, and sometimes just take a breather, a break from not just social media but media full stop. Yeah, the arguments, is it fake news, is it real, do your research. You shouldn't have to do the research, the news should present the facts. Right, anyway, let's slow things down now. There we are, nice and cosy, looking up the river, nice, eh? Anyway, thanks very much for watching, commenting, liking and subscribing. Join me tomorrow for another map in the What Map series, and of course for another map making. I'm not sure what we'll do yet tomorrow. I'm sure we'll find some work to do. There's plenty to do with this map still, plenty to do. See you then, have a great day.